Hello all and welcome to your skills training video. So in this video what we are going to talk about is how do we solve a problem and how do we break it down into manageable steps that we actually get around to doing it. So before we start this video, I hope that you have read the procrastination what and why handout, and if you have it already, then pause this video, go back to the handout, go through this and then come back to this video. And for those of you who haven't paused it or gone back or who have come right back, now let's get started on how do we come around and solve these problems. So we all have a bunch of tasks that we intend to do, but we don't really get around to doing it. But we also want to do it. So not being able to do it also gives us a lot of distress. Many a times, because these tasks are overwhelming, that's why it can get difficult for us to engage in these tasks and to be able to do them. So here is when problem solving can be something that we can use. So now why do we want to call it a problem? Is because this inability to do a task is something that's a problem behavior that we need to fix because we need to be able to do these tasks. So to be able to problem solve, there are a bunch of steps that I'm going to run you through. You can also pause this video, go to the worksheet and the problem solving handout. If it works better for you, you can go through the handout and then come back to the video. Or you can open these things parallelly and have a look at them as we go through each of these points in our video. Let's look at step number 1, which is articulating the problem. In this step, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to describe your problem in as few words as possible. So, for example, I cannot decide whether I should quit my job, or I cannot decide what to do to get better at math because probably it is something that I'm not great at. Step number 2 would be to list down all of the possible solutions. So, in this column, you can just list down any and every solution that comes to your mind without thinking about its plausibility, whether it can really happen, whether you will be able to do it or not. So barring all of these things, just list down as many solutions as you can come up with. It takes us to step number 3, where we are going to list down pros and cons of each of these solutions. So evaluate every solution that you have come up with and maybe write whatever pros and cons that come to your mind. So for example, if for learning math, if you have written that take up a Coursera course. However, in your cons you realize that you are somebody who does not do very well in online courses. Then that is a solution that So then that is something that will be an assessment of this solution for you. This brings us to the next step wherein you have to rate every solution on the scale of 0 to 10. So now this solution wherein you are not great at online classes. So then the rating for this solution will automatically drop. And by the end of this step, you're going to find out which is the best possible option for you. And in step number 5, what you're supposed to do is nothing but to implement this best option that you have rated as the best solution as per you and try to carry out that. However, even once we have come up with this solution to our problem, it can be difficult for us to, directly implement it. And this brings us to the next part of the skill, which is breaking down anything into manageable steps. This can be used in situations where the solution is clear, however, you're not able to participate in it or you're not able to engage with it because you're too overwhelmed with the idea of the task or with the magnitude of the task. So, in this situation, let's take a step 1 to choose a difficult or a complex task from the task list that we have made. We could go through, we can pick up one task or we can pick up any problem area and use the problem solving to come up with a behavior that we want to start engaging in. In step 2, what you have to do is list down all the steps that you are going to take to start implementing this solution. And you can ask yourself questions like, what do I do first in this situation? Or what do I do to get me started on, starting with this problem solving behavior? So, for example, if when let's still look at the problem of learning math, and if now I know I'm not doing online classes, my best solution is probably getting a tutor. So then, in step two is I have to break it down to manageable steps. So maybe the first step would be to make a list of top 10 tutors, and for making this list of top 10 tutors, I'll have to first research or look for different platforms where I can find tutors. So maybe that can be the first step wherein I research for platforms and go ahead from there. After that, I go on to what is the best platform, which are the few where I want to pick. Then this will help me shortlist the list of 10 people I want to try and contact. Next step would be to contact maybe 5 out of them today, 5 out of them later, have a few questions that I want to ask them, and so on. Then, in step 3, what you have to do is for each of these steps that you have made, ask yourself that, is this a manageable step? Is this something that I can do in one day? And if not, if this step seems like, this is also something that I may put off, or it is something that I'm very likely to procrastinate, then it means that it might be something that is still too big, it's a bigger chunk, and it is something that is overwhelming. So then you go back, repeat the step 3 and break it down into further steps, which will bring us to the next step, which is step 4, wherein we are going to add each individual step to our master list of tasks that need to be done. And this brings us to the last step, which is the step 5, wherein you move these tasks from the master list to your daily list of tasks that need to be done. So what this ends up doing is that now that big problem or the big solution that you have thought of, which is overwhelming, is now broken down into smaller, more manageable steps, and then you're left with a daily task list, which is a more manageable list, and it is something that is consisting of steps and things that you can do in that one particular day. There is one more step that you can do. This is an optional step wherein you can mix your calendar to this and try to put in these steps into different time slots in your calendar. However, if you are someone who uses calendar, it can be something that can be used by you. Or if you're not someone who is very good at that, not very good at being time bound that way, then you can skip this step completely.